G'day and welcome to New England Today. My name is Richard Monk and today I'm talking with Susannah Pearse. Susannah and her husband Oscar are farmers on the Moree Plains, but Susannah is also a member of the Moree Plains Council. She's the Deputy Mayor. She has some incredible ideas and, puts Moree into a very different light than most people see it. I think you're going to like this. Susannah Pearse. Hello Susannah, welcome to New England Today.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Other than Oscar, what drew you to Moree?
So prior to coming to Moree, I had a corporate career. I was working for Coles Hotel Group. So they had 100 pubs and I was the national marketing manager for their pub business. And look, that was a hard slog. It was a period where we'd been through lots of amalgamations, etc., takeover of Wesfarmers. There'd been huge changes, huge redundancies, pretty challenging time to work in that company. Lots of pressure, but also a lot of fun. And I suppose when I met a farmer on Caxton Street in Brisbane and started coming out to Moree a bit, I kind of went, oh, hang on, is there a better way to do things? And look, I have to admit, after having a job where I was, it was very much about encouraging people to eat and drink and gamble more. Getting involved in farming seems like a really, really honourable way to earn your living. And I suppose I've always been attracted to country life. And so this was a way to do it. And we kind of looked at it and went, oh, maybe we'll give it a try. And 14 years later, we're still trying.
That's pretty amazing. And that was just perfect timing for your rooster, by the way, when you were talking about country living.
I have two of them.
Oh, they're wonderful. No, they're wonderful. Yeah. They're wonderful things. But Moree has some really positive sides to it, but it obviously also has some negative sides to it. Some of the positive sides, you talk about Moree is a bit of the whole area is a bit of sort of go-get because it really is up to the individuals and up to the communities to make sure it all works. But things like the solar farms, which I was a bit like yours living in Sydney, and one of the big stories that came out of Moree was that the solar farm was there and what it was doing and how much it was producing. How's that impacted Moree itself?
Look, I actually think Moree's always been pretty progressive. We've got, our farming is the best in the country, and that's not just because of our natural assets. It's not just because of the rain that falls in the black soil. It's also because we have really innovative people who are keen to try new things. And so, our solar farm, which was done some years ago, is fairly small in comparison to some of the ones that are happening now. I think it's 56 megawatts, and I think some of them are 10 times that size that are happening now with the renewable energy zone. But look, the Moree Plains, have always been keen to embrace new technology. I think, Moree Plains was one of the first areas to adapt to zero-till farming, etc. We've had, some of the first driverless tractors in operation here. And I think that's only going to continue. There's some really exciting projects with Haringa Energy. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but there's a green hydrogen project looking at hydrolysis. They are going to be utilising the solar farm to actually power a cotton gin. And
that's something I learned. I had a bit of a bee in my bonnet about how the New England generally was represented to the rest of the country, and it was quite seriously. I mean it in a respectful way. But folks are dumb where I come from. I come from the New England, and I kept seeing these politicians and other people talking on the to the open media, and they just look dumb. But you talk about projects like this, and it's happening all over the New England. Like most farms have been solar powered for 10 years. Like it's not unusual. So you're already cutting into the cutting edge of green energy. I don't know how you change that image of the people, the spokespeople. How do you change that to show how innovative this area is?
Look, I think you did right, Richard. I think it's one of the frustrations for us in the Moree Plains that often the reason that we hit the news is not for the reasons that we'd like to be hitting the news. And we have journalists, etc., come to town, and it's always a bit of a flash in the pan. And I'm constantly saying to them, please stay with us and please report on some of the other things we have happening in our town. And you're right, there's a lot of good happening. I'm quite excited. My running mate, Brooke Sawyer, actually is a scientist and is working with Pure Grain, and they've got a field day coming up where she's been looking after a number of field trials to sequester more carbon and seed treatments, etc., that result in greater yields. So I think we are often at the forefront of technology, but perhaps we haven't done as well as we could in terms of spruiking how good we are at these things. And so, my background is in communications as well. So potentially something that I'd like to see us working on a bit more.
Yeah, but I think that voice is that, and I was kind of leading towards that anyway, because I guess the upcoming elections, just before we talk about the upcoming elections, did you get all your nominations, everyone got in there? I know last week we were talking and you were just going like the clappers to try to get all the nominations in.
Yeah, luckily we didn't have the Liberal Party looking after our nominations. But yes, look, we didn't have a huge pool, but there's always a time delay in these nominations appearing on the system. But for me, I would always like the community to have a choice in terms of, having a range of people to vote for. So I kind of hold myself up at our wonderful co-working space in Moree at Social Co and just said, anyone who wants help with nominations, it's a clunky system. So I just sat there, and thank you to Tyler Macy, who said we could just come in and utilise their printer and scanner and internet. And we got a couple of extra ones added at the last minute, which was really good.
Oh, so it's not a dead rubber. There's actually an election going to be on here. The people are going to have to vote.
We are going to have an election, and there is choice. And look, I think one of the beautiful things about local government is, you've got a bunch of people who have disparate views and potentially different political leanings, but everyone's there to, try and get the best outcomes for our region. So there's always common ground. So look, we will work with, hopefully I will get re-elected, and I will happily work with whoever sits around that table, because we're all there for the same reason, and it's for the people out there in the community.
You're deputy mayor, but you're headed towards the mayoral role, aren't you?
Well, I think it depends. I mean, you wouldn't want to assume too much, Richard. I'm hoping to get elected first and foremost, and it would be a delight to be able to, do another 4 terms on council. There's a hell of a lot more that I'd like to see us achieve. So whether I'm mayor, deputy mayor, or a councillor, I will always continue to push. So look, I'll serve in whatever role I'm given the opportunity to do, really.
That's a beautiful answer. I'm glad. I'm so used to hearing Trumpettes who are sort of saying, yeah, sure, I'm going to be in charge of the world. But it's nice to hear that you're there for the community. And yeah, I guess
you go.
I was just going to say, I guess to a lot of communities are a little tired of politics generally at any level. And there is quite a. I was talking to Brendan Moylan the other day, and he's sort of obviously Moree lad, but. I was talking to him about the changes in politics, and he's acutely aware of it. There's an expectation, but there's also something got broken somewhere along the line. So to be able to encourage people back to the community and have good political leadership is so important.
Yeah, I think there's also been a bit of a breakdown in trust between government and community. And I think we have a way to go to kind of restore community faith in local government organisations. And I think we've got to do that through demonstrating really strong integrity, but also demonstrating a really genuine customer service focus. And I think that's something that I'd like to bring in, having come from a corporate background. I think there's great pride in public service and serving the community. And I think that's something that I'd like to see instilled in everything that we do at council, because I think it's the little things that count, and it's returning people's phone calls. It's, keeping the community abreast of changes, even if it's not good news, just keeping them in the loop, I think goes a long way to restoring that trust.
Can we touch on the thing you talk about media just popping in for the story and then popping out again, and crime is the big one. How do you focus on something like that? Because the reputation is probably greater than the actual what's actually happening, which is always the case. When you spotlight something, the story's going to be bigger than the event. But How do you look at the crime situation in Moree? Because it's happening everywhere, but it's obviously happening pretty heavily in Moree at the moment.
Yeah. So look, there's a few facets to it. Yes, we're not the only ones who have experienced an increase, especially in youth crime. But the thing, at the end of the day, you need your community to feel safe. So, but also we need our children to be safe. And if it's youth who are out on the streets at night because home's not safe, then that's a concern. So I think we've got to look at it in terms of addressing more than the symptoms of the problem, but also the underlying causes. And we've been really grateful. We've got a huge amount of support from the state government to do so. And that's because of the underlying, we've got some significant underlying social issues in our town. And until we fight for the people who are worst off in our community and really push that they have equal opportunities in life, then we're going to continue to have these issues. So look, we've been really fortunate with the state government. They've invested $13.6 million, I think it is, over $13 million in some strategies specifically for the Moree Plains. And that's about not just throwing money at things, but also one of our key concerns for a long time has been that we have such a huge number of community service organisations operating in the Moree Plains. I think it's over 50, and they're clearly not delivering all the types of initiatives that need to occur to support our community. So there is a services audit happening currently with the state government, and actually we're hoping the federal government will also be involved with that, looking at where the money is that's coming into our community, what outcomes it's delivering, and whether there should be some consideration of whether that should be reshaped to really provide the best support and deliver real outcomes.
Okay. In plain language, there's no, not that. That was perfect. Thank you. The issue with the Indigenous population there being almost a quarter of the population, and I say issue because that's a spotlight. And again, it may not be just the spotlight may be on the wrong place or maybe on the right place. Can you enlighten me?
Yeah. Look, I to be honest, Richard, I do get a little frustrated with branding all socioeconomic issues in Moree as Aboriginal issues. They're not. I know lots of really great Aboriginal families who are doing a fantastic job raising their children. A bigger determinant in our area is actually whether you live in South Moree or not. It's a bigger determinant of your economic status than whether you're Aboriginal or not. So as a council, we've got quite a bit we need to do to try to improve that particular area of our community. There's been a whole bunch of burnout houses in that area. I don't know how you can expect anyone to thrive in a community where you've got burnout houses around you. And so far this year, we've instated a new enforcement program that's seen 20 burnout houses cleaned up since the start of this year. So we're making really strong headway in that. But yeah, look, it's not just an Aboriginal issue. Obviously, Aboriginal people in our community have suffered over the years. There's been some things that our council had in place, like bylaws preventing people from accessing our pools and stuff, that we need to work with our Aboriginal community to kind of repair those bonds and to make our Aboriginal community members feel valued and supported as members of our community. And I think we're getting there, but it's a journey. And look, I'm heartened to see a lot of Aboriginal community members doing well. I'm heartened to see a lot of Aboriginal new businesses starting. So we've in the last couple of years, we've seen our first Aboriginal tourism startup take off, which is really exciting. Very clever woman, Kerry Saunders, doing native grain tours in Moree. She's also developing her own native grain flour for sale, etc. There's a lot of good stuff happening, and that's what we need to focus on.
Yep, and really emphasising the positive. I know we were living in a world where everyone wants to emphasise the negative, but it's clear that if you can emphasise the positive, that grows. More and more people want to be part of it when they see something positive, when they can see a future. Everyone wants to be part of that, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we have a really proud Gomeroi culture here, and I think there's a lot that we can do with that. I think we've got to celebrate it more, and we've got to do that in partnership with the Aboriginal community.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds like you've got a plan. You've got a track for that. From the greater, and I'm not putting these two things together, but we have to come back to crime for just a moment, and it comes back to a conversation we had on this channel with Brendan Moylan, who was saying that you need better magistrates when it comes down to the sentencing, when it comes down to the court level. But all that's wonderful, but how do you attract people of the right calibre to Moree? And that kind of sits with you because, you're the face of Moree. How do you draw people of higher expertise into Moree?
Yeah, so look, I think the magistrate is a bit of a challenging one because we don't have a magistrate that comes and lives in Moree, and actually it's not a full-time position. So I think that is one challenge that we do have with magistrates is that they aren't actually members of our community. But in terms of attracting people, there is a lot to be said for what we already have here in Moree. We have our real estate provides really good investments for people. It's been one of the top performers in the state. So you can buy affordable housing, but it's actually increasing in value. You speak to anyone in Moree, no one ever has a problem finding a job in the Moree Plains. If you want a job, there are jobs here for you. So you've got a job, you've got nice houses and that are relatively affordable, and we're also really well connected. So if you want to get back to the big smoke and have a weekend of partying in Sydney, or go see Taylor Swift or whoever you want to go see, or see the Wallabies underperform, you can jump on a plane and you can get there. We have daily services with Qantas, and we're really fortunate that Qantas has increased its commitment to our community and is putting on bigger planes. So we've just had to do a quick project at our airport to enable the bigger planes to come through, to increase our apron at the airport. So look, we're connected. You can have a rewarding job. You can have a rewarding career and social life. So we think it's all here, but perhaps we're not promoting it as well as we could be.
Yeah, it is an interesting thing too, because people are leaving the cities. And Sydney is a classic example. I was in Melbourne the other day and they're all telling me that Melbourne has just eclipsed Sydney in population of 5.2 million now. 5.2 million, yeah. And Sydney is still 4 point something and going backwards because people are getting out and they're looking for places to be. So the opportunity's there, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And we have capacity. Our this is not very sexy, but our sewage treatment plant can handle up to 20,000 people. So we've got plenty of space. We've got plenty of space. And actually our council has invested in more water. So we've actually recently boosted our town water supply. We see that as really critical.
Absolutely.
Especially in our region. There's some towns in our region in the New England where they're not so fortunate to have that water security, whereas we see it as a huge point of difference for us. With climate change, we're likely to have more periods of drought, and the Moree Plains didn't have water restrictions in Moree during that unprecedented drought. So you can live here, you can have your green garden in the centre of town. And it will sustain our industries as well. So yeah, we're pretty fortunate.
All right, you've sold it. I mean, you're
in?
Yeah, you were. Come on, everyone, let's go to Moree. But it's, I guess, too, for you. You're balancing two things too. Not only are you the council takes up a lot of your time. You run a farm with your husband. So
yes.
How do you? This is getting back to you personally. How do you balance those two things?
Look, I've realised, Richard, that I like to be a busy person. I don't actually like having too much spare time. So, yeah, we run a farm. We've got 3 kids, and I'm currently halfway through my Masters of Business Administration. I'm doing 2 subjects at the moment on that. But I've just realised I'm someone who likes to be busy. I don't like to be idle. And as they say, if you want something to be done, give it to a busy person and it will get done. So, look, I think I like the mayhem. I like the madness.
Well, hopefully you can keep that going, because just talking to you now, I'm thinking if you represent Moree, this is a very positive face for Moree, and it probably, in the light of national and state media, which it's dissipating, so that's a good thing. We can actually get stories out, and that's what we do here at New England Times. It's all about New England. But if that positive view and actually doing stuff is where your head is and where the council's head is, you can only go forward.
Yeah. Oh, look, I don't want to gloss over things though, Richard. I mean, we have a fair bit of work to do. In terms of our council, we have a huge number of capital works projects, $150 million in this year, and we typically deliver about 20. So we have some challenges there in terms of improving our effectiveness. We also have challenges as a region, just like every other region. But of course, we're going to be positive. We do genuinely believe that there is huge potential. And coming from a corporate background, you've got to recognise the growth potential, don't you?
Of course you do. Of course you do. So is there much debt with the council?
Yeah, so we've retired some in this term of council. So the debt that's on council's books was actually in the current council's defence was on the books before we came in, and so we've actually managed to retire debt in our water and sewer fund, and we've been really grateful that we've been able to get over $20 million in funding for our Moree Artesian Aquatic Centre, so for the redevelopment of that centre. Wow. When we came in, none of that funding existed, and so we were looking at having to borrow to fund the redevelopment of that premier tourist facility. So we're really grateful. We've got about half that funding is state government funding and about half is federal government funding. So we've got a really great grants team who provide a very good return on investment for their time. So, yeah, we will fight hard and get as many grants as we can, because we really want to reduce we want to reduce our debt in the long term, and we can't keep racking up bills and not being able to pay them. We've got to be able to, we've got to find the means to do what we need to do.
Well, it sounds like it's a go-getting group of people who are obviously, if you've honed that grant finding and securing method, you got to on-sell that to other councils too. Start up a side business.
Not a bad idea. I'll speak to my general manager.
Okay, see if you can do that. So, what are you thinking for the outcome of on the 14th of September? Are you confident, or are you just sit on your seat and wait and see what happens?
Look, we've had a very, very wise councillor, Councillor Mike Montgomery, on our council for over 30 years, and who always says the community never gets it wrong. And so whoever ends up around that table is clearly who the community wants there, and they're obviously going to be representing very valid views that are held in our community. So, look, I will work with whoever sits around that table. Hopefully I'll be one of them, and hopefully my running mate Brooke Sawyer will be one of them. But I think regardless who sits there, we'll be able to find common ground, and we'll be able to push forward and try to deliver the best for the Moree Plains.
I'd love to catch up with you after the election and see what you have to say about things if you've got time, even if it's just a 5-minute catch up. But thank you for talking to me today. It's been fascinating.
No, thank you so much, Richard, and thank you very much for your interest in the Moree Plains. It's really wonderful to see.
Well, that's Susannah Pearse, and we'll find out exactly what came out of the council elections after the 14th of September, not too far away, so hang around for that. If you like what you're seeing on this new YouTube channel for the New England Times, make sure you subscribe. Hit that subscribe button because it's really important. This story is also, I write as well, so you can read this story on New England Times if you prefer to do that. So until next time, I'll see you then.